morning, everyone. Welcome to a brand new edition of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. We got a packed show lined up for you guys today. We had a great slate of games last night. Obviously, the Warriors and Timberwolves going at it. We had Steph Curry suffer a little bit of an injury. We'll have an update on that. But the Warriors putting on a defensive masterclass, putting the Minnesota Timberwolves in a straitjacket, as I like to call it, just locking them down. Anthony Edwards with 1 point in the first half. In the second half, it was a different story. The Timberwolves making the game a little bit more interesting down the stretch. But it was the play of Buddy Hield. Once again, Buddy Hield showing signs of Steph Curry-esque. You had Jimmy Butler putting on a clinic on the inside. Just getting to the hoop, driving to the basket. Just in general, just using his strength, using his footwork. Just a fantastic playoff Jimmy that showed up last night. And we'll get into everything about that. From there, we have to talk about Tyrese Haliburton with a second game winner, with another game winner last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers in a game 2, in a game where Donovan Mitchell went off for 48 points. And to spoil that performance with how this game ended, this game was from especially the last few minutes of this game, especially the fourth quarter, the Pacers climbing back into this one and then capped off with the turnover leading to the Tyrese Haliburton 3. Overall, it was a fantastic game, and we have a lot to unpack in that one. It's so much to unpack in that one that we got to take 2 segments and talk about that. Is Tyrese Haliburton really the most overrated player in the league? We have a lot to talk about with that one there as well. From there, we're going to preview the Oklahoma City Denver Nuggets game 2 tonight. Is this a must-win game for the Oklahoma City Thunder? If they go down 2-0, do they still have a chance to win this series? I think tonight is must-win, and we are going to have a lot to talk about with that one. And then to cap off the show, of course, we have to talk about the other game between the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. We had New York go into Boston 2 nights ago and knock them off. Boston, of course, missing 45 three-pointers in that one, building a house, as we like to call it, going brick by brick. And unfortunately, that's all that needs to be said with that one. The Celtics, we're going to preview that game too as well later tonight. But before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network. Let me restart that. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and it also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. But we have to get into our next segment. We have to get into the top of the show here because this was an unbelievable game between the Warriors and Timberwolves. The Warriors kind of ran away with it, but if this was anything of a preview for anything to come, this is going to be a great series. The final score was 99-88. The Minnesota Timberwolves did make it a little bit more interesting down the stretch, but the play of Buddy Hield down the stretch, the play of Jimmy Butler, the play of Draymond Green hitting clutch 3 after clutch 3 in that first quarter, or in the first half in general. It was the Draymond Green. He went 4 for 5 from 3-point range in the first half. Like, Draymond Green hit some crucial shots down the stretch of the first half, and he was a big reason why they won this game. But of course, we have to look at the biggest story in this one, and it's the health of Steph Curry. Steph Curry hitting a couple big threes as well in the first half prior to getting hurt. We're not exactly sure how he got hurt, but it has been ruled a left hamstring strain at the moment, and he was ruled out of the game in the second quarter. Did not even give it an opportunity to play on it. Just didn't roll the dice on it, and it makes sense. Hamstring injuries are one of the most nagging injuries in the NBA. They're one of the more minor ones, but they can be nagging for 3 weeks, 4 weeks long, if not treated correctly. Sometimes you just need to give that you just need to lay off that leg for a little bit, put some icy hot on it, as Shaq likes to say, put a heat pad on it, just sit down and rest. Do not force it, because if say that hamstring tears, then you're looking at months of rehab and just trying to get right back into the action, turning a minor injury into a major one. That is the issue with hamstring injuries, and it looked like that's what the issue was with this one. The training staff in Golden State not letting Steph Curry get an opportunity to step back on the court, and yeah, he was immediately grabbing at it in the second quarter, and that was about it for him. We'll have more of an update on him in game 2, but this injury could nag him till they get back to Golden State. I would not be shocked if he's out in game 2 and then possibly comes back in either game 3 or game 4. Game 4 at the latest, I think, but game 3 I think is the circled date right now for the return of Steph Curry in this series. But if Buddy Hield had any sign that he can carry the load without Steph Curry in the lineup, last night was it. Going 5 of 8 from three-point range, 7 of 19 from the field, 24 points, 8 rebounds. Fantastic game from him, honestly. When Jimmy Butler and Buddy Hield, I'm joking with each other saying, "No, I'm the Butler. You're like what?" It was a joke that Buddy Hield was saying yesterday, or after Game 7, after his performance in Game 7, when he also had a phenomenal performance going off for 33 points. But I'm saying the joke, it's like, who's Robin, who's Alfred? And Buddy Hield's always saying Butler's Alfred to Batman, Steph Curry being Batman, because Alfred is Batman's butler, and Jimmy Butler. Obviously, it was a corny joke. I thought it was kind of funny, but Buddy Hield showing that he can be Robin for this team, going off for 24 points. In Jimmy Butler's case, he went off for 20 points and 11 rebounds as well, 8 assists. He carried the load. He facilitated that offense without Steph Curry in the lineup, and that's honestly what you need him to do. You do want him to shoot a little better, 7 of 20 from the field, 2 of 8 from three-point range, only getting to the free throw line 3 times. We know Jimmy Butler can play at a higher clip than that, can play better. But just this one, he just had he had a worse shooting night, but facilitating the ball, being able to get his guys open, that's what you need him to do. Force the double team, draw a double team, and kick it out to an open Buddy Hield, to a Jonathan Kuminga, to a Gary Payton II, somebody like that. Podziemski, another player in Brandon Podziemski that kind of needs to step it up a little bit. 1 for 7 from the field, 1 for 5 from three-point range. We saw in Game 5, he had an awesome Game 5 against the Houston Rockets, and we know the level he can play at. He can be a legitimate third option for this Warriors team. He just needs to shoot better, plain and simple. If he can figure out that shot, if he can improve those shooting numbers, I think Podziemski is still a very young player, so we are giving him time. I'm saying we should still give him some time to grow into that role, but Podziemski needs to grow and needs to be what he can be if the Warriors want to advance farther and farther into the playoffs. This is only Game 1 as well. Just because of last night, I'm not saying in any way that the Warriors are going to win this series. If we're even going to look at the other side, we can't look farther than 0 of 13 from three-point range in the first half. I don't know what the final stat was exactly, but when I say 0 of 13 as a team, they didn't hit their first three-pointer until the fourth quarter. Just let that sink in for a second. That is how poorly the Minnesota Timberwolves shot last night. What's the final number? The final number was 5 of 29 from 3. 17%. It's not as bad as Boston against New York, but it's still really bad. 5 of 29 you're not going to beat anybody in today's age, 5 of 29 from 3, especially when the other side is going 18 for 42, almost 50%. So, of course, Anthony Edwards did turn it on late in this game, and major props to him because he is the leader of this team, going from 1 point in the end of the first half to 23 points to finish the game. He turned it on in the second half, and that's what you need him to do. just going through that adversity, it's a great sign as a young player because he's still 23 years old. We still need to give him the benefit of the doubt. He is a superstar in this league, but he is still young. We should give him the benefit of the doubt. He can have bad games, and he will. I expect him to have a comeback game in game 2 and just show the world what he can do. But yeah, this team, in the Minnesota Timberwolves, you try to use their ferocity on them, try to use their rebounding power, use their strength, use their physicality to get offensive rebounds in this game. Try to use a similar game plan to what they threw at the Los Angeles Lakers. The problem is the Warriors are simply shot makers. They know how to make shots. They know how to be consistent with them, and they are consistent with them. They are one of the best. They are one of the best teams in terms of consistency on the defensive end of the ball, on the rebound, on the boards, getting offensive rebounds. Rudy Gobert didn't have a quieter game, but defensively, he still had a great game, I'd say. Rudy Gobert finishing with 9 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks. Just a great, quiet game from him. We know he can do better, but in terms of rebounding, doing his part, playing his part, and yeah, in general, it was a tough game for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Getting behind early is never easy, and they had to fight back to cut the lead to 11 points. This game was a 20-point lead by halftime. Plain and simple. The Minnesota Timberwolves had a total of 31 points at halftime. That is the defense, whether you want to call it good defense from the Warriors or better offense from the good defense from the Warriors or bad offense from the Timberwolves, however you want to slice it, 31 points is 31 points. You have to give the Warriors credit where credit is due. They were forcing turnovers. They were getting steals. They were getting, I believe Jimmy Butler finished with 2 steals. Draymond Green, 2 steals. Buddy Hield, 1 steal. Like, just going down the line. Gary Payton Jr., 1 steal. In general, the Warriors' hands were active for a lot of this game, and it was transparent throughout this game. But yeah, I expect the Timberwolves to come out in game 2 red hot. I expect Anthony Edwards to be ready to go. Naz Reid, Jaden McDaniels. Jaden McDaniels is having a good game to start. Still shooting 6 of 12 from the field, so still 50%. But it's the 3-point shooting for this team that's really holding them back. I believe they're like 12 of 70 over the last 2 games or something crazy. They are not shooting the ball very well. And from game 5 against the Lakers to now game 1 against the Warriors. 2 games now that they've shot the ball very poorly and have relied on their defense. And against a Warriors team like this, you saw the Houston Rockets. They forced a game 7. But you saw the Houston Rockets struggle to deal with this Warriors team, trying to rely on their defense versus their offense. If the Warriors are seasoned and ready to go after a tough defensive matchup against the Houston Rockets, they will be ready to go against the Minnesota Timberwolves in terms of how to deal with that defensive tenacity. It might be a different scheme, but they know how to score the ball. They've done it. They tried any and every way possible to do it against the Houston Rockets. They already have the blueprints down for whatever any team could throw at them. So, I think Minnesota's game 2 is going to be must win. I think if Steph Curry's out of the lineup, I think they will win regardless. But especially if Steph Curry is not in the lineup in game 2, the Timberwolves have to win this game. They have to win game 2 on Thursday night, or else you're looking at a 2-0 hole going back to Golden State. I don't like your chances. Plain and simple, I don't like your chances in that scenario. That is not a scenario. That is not a predicament you want to find yourself in. So, yeah, I got the T-Wolves evening up this series in game 2. It was a defensive masterclass from the Warriors, but major props to the role players of the Warriors stepping up without Steph Curry, and we'll monitor that hamstring injury as we go further into the week, because we'll probably have more of an update today and tomorrow, especially pregame before tomorrow's game. But I'm going to take a short break. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the other game last night between the Indiana Pacers and Cleveland Cavaliers. Two teams that I've said before yesterday and 2 days ago when I was recapping and previewing. These two teams emulate each other. They're pretty much carbon copies of each other in terms of depth, in terms of scoring, in terms of star play, in terms of big men in the low post. These two teams are pretty much carbon copies of each other. And as well as the Cleveland Cavaliers played, we have to give credit where credit is due, is to Tyrese Haliburton and to this Indiana Pacers team. The way they continued to fight in this game and stick with it, not give up on the game. I'm going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at Pacers Cavs Game 2. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown, get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to take a look at the Indiana Pacers going into Cleveland last night, not for the first time, but the second time in 3 days, going into Cleveland and knocking off the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2, taking a commanding 2-0 series lead, going back to Indiana. And if I'm Cleveland, I'm setting off the sirens in this one. Tyrese Haliburton with a game winner, with Donovan on the eve of Donovan Mitchell going off for 48 points. 48 points. And you let Tyrese Haliburton and the Indiana Pacers walk the game off and honestly come back from 7 points down in the last 35 seconds of the game. It's plain and simple. This was a meltdown from the Cleveland Cavaliers for sure, but we have to give credit where credit is due to Donovan Mitchell and to Tyrese Haliburton, because what a game this was. We're going to recap this in a second, but before I move any further, I'd like to remind you guys to please like and follow the show for more GSMC Sports Network content. Also, we get a number of questions from viewers that come in during the show, so to ensure that your question gets read on air, I ask that you use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net. This puts your question at the top of the list so that I see it, and also really helps out the show. Again, the link is gsmcpodcast.net for all your questions and comments. And I've said it before, you guys are a big part of the show here, what we do at the GSMC Sports Network. Let us know what we're doing well. Let us know if you have any questions while we're talking. Let us know if you want me to clarify any of my takes, for sure. Whatever you guys need, let me know in the comments, in the chat box. Anything and everything is greatly appreciated, and I'm always looking at that chat box. So let us know what you think. And everything is always appreciated. But getting right back into it here, we had the Indiana Pacers go into Cleveland last night and take that 2-0 series lead. Who knew? I picked the Pacers to win this series in 7 games. But after last night, I might have to revise it to 6. I might. It's not a whole lot of a difference, but I never thought I would see this Cleveland Cavaliers lose to anybody outside of maybe Boston in 6 games. I thought Boston was the only one that could do it, and even Boston, I thought that series was going to go to 7 games in the Eastern Conference Finals. But I picked Indiana before the series started, and I think it looks unbelievable right now. This Indiana Pacers team is one of the most underrated teams in the NBA. And we have a lot to talk about in the later segment when we're going to talk about Tyrese Haliburton, getting into some news about with a questionnaire going out to players around the league about who's possibly the most overrated player in the league. The fact that Tyrese Haliburton's name was even mentioned in that conversation is crazy to me, first and foremost. But ever since that questionnaire came out, Tyrese Haliburton's he heard all of it. This came out probably a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. Haliburton's been on a tear ever since then. And last night was no different. The Pacers going down 32-15 to start this game. In a game where we thought Donovan Mitchell and the Cleveland Cavaliers were going to run away with it. Another point of information that we got to bring up pregame. I probably should have started with this. Pregame. I thought the Cavs were going to win this game for sure, especially after losing game one. Especially thinking Darius Garland would be healthy and back and ready to go for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Not only was Darius Garland hurt in this one, once again, with a left toe contusion, Evan Mobley is out with a left ankle sprain, and DeAndre Hunter is out. I don't know what his injury is, but he was out for this game as well. That is 3 key pieces in 2 teams that I already mentioned are incredibly deep, top to down. It can go 7-man deep that can score 10+ points. And when you have 2 teams that are like that, and you are removing 3 players from one team, you're basically running at 60% efficiency. So where do those other 10 points go to? Who do they go to? Where do they end up going? If you want to even keep it close. I said if this was even going to be a close game, I thought actually, regardless if this was close or not, I said Donovan Mitchell was going to go off for 30 or 40 points last night. I said it in the recap. I said in the preview yesterday, and I couldn't have been more right. Donovan Mitchell finishing with 48 points and 9 assists in this one. He was a big reason why the Cavs were even in this game, jumping out to that early lead in the first quarter and forcing Indiana to really chip at it. They were forced to chip at it. Go from 20 points down to 16 points down to close out the half, to down by 12 to end the third quarter. And even then, down by 12 points to end the third quarter. You thought that the Cavs were going to step up and just go on a run in the fourth quarter. But nope, it was the Pacers. It was Tyrese Haliburton that showed up down the stretch. It was Benedict Mathurin scoring 19 crucial points off the bench. He was a big reason why they stayed in the game in this one, going 6 of 10 from the field. Miles Turner was the star of the game from start to finish. Without Evan Mobley in the lineup, it was Miles Turner doing whatever he wanted in the low post, going off for 23 points. He was a big reason, 8 rebounds as well. He was a big reason why this game stayed close. Aaron Nesmith hitting a clutch bucket down the stretch, especially in the fourth quarter specifically, hitting a clutch 3-pointer, going 5 of 8 from 3-point range. Aaron Nesmith, also a player that's kind of bounced around the league, started in Boston. Boston traded him away to Indiana, and he's really bloomed into a great player, a great two-way player in Indiana, and he's continuing to grow into a great player over there. Still only 25 years of age, still in his prime of his career, still growing into a great player right now. But we have to get to the meat and potatoes of this. We have to get to the guy that scored the final shot, the guy that shocked the world, plain and simple. This was the first time I'd say I haven't jumped out of my seat the way Tyrese Haliburton made me jump out of my seat in these entire playoffs. I haven't done it since probably last year's playoffs. Tyrese Haliburton, let's rewind the clock. 119 to 112 with 48 seconds to play. The Pacers are driving the ball. They give the ball to Siakam. Pascal Siakam lays the ball in for an and one. Or, no, it wasn't even an and one. It was a 2-point shot. It was a 2-pointer. Just a layup. Pacers call timeout. Cavs bring the ball to the front court. With under 30 seconds to play, it is a 5-point game. You know the ball is going to Donovan Mitchell's hands. I literally sitting there screaming at the TV saying, this ball is going to Donovan Mitchell's hands. Do not let it get in Donovan Mitchell's hands. Pacers force a turnover, going the other way. Haliburton lays the ball up and in for an and one shot. And suddenly it's a 2-point game, 119 to 117. I believe the Pacers fouled. They had a foul to give, bringing the ball up again for the Cavs into the front court. And I'm trying to think back exactly how it transpired. Maybe the turnover happened here instead of previously, but 117 to 119, I believe the turnover. No. Haliburton forced another turnover on Donovan Mitchell, and with 15 seconds left to play, Haliburton just walked it up the court, took advantage of the smaller Max Strus on him, and it was just a step back three in his face. There's only the three over Max Strus to end the game for Tyrese Haliburton. It was vintage. This is one of the best players in the league, plain and simple. For a game-winning shot like that, to shock a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's a number 1 seed, to go up 2-0 in the series, going back to your hometown, to your home floor. This is why the Pacers went up 3-1 in the regular season series. This is a big reason why Haliburton is not one of the most overrated players in the league. And this is why the Indiana Pacers are one of the most underrated teams in the NBA. When a team can go 7-man deep, can play good defense, can score the ball, is led by a guy like Tyrese Haliburton, who's honestly, he's Damian Lillard-esque in the playoffs. This is not his first game winner. This is his third or his fourth, I believe. He had one against Indiana. He had one against New York. He had one against Milwaukee in the last series. And now he does it again against Cleveland. Major props to Tyrese Haliburton, growing into one of the best superstar talents, especially in the playoffs. And he's continuing to grow into a star player today, as one of the best point guards in the league. So major props to him, and we know he's going to continue to grow. We're gonna revisit this topic in a later segment as well, because Haliburton deserves to be we need to talk about Haliburton, most overrated player in the league. We're gonna talk a little bit about that in a later segment, so don't go anywhere for that. But yeah, that's the state of affairs in Indiana right now. 2-0 series lead going back to Indiana. I'm probably going to pick Cleveland to come back in Game 3, have their guys healthy. Garland has to play in Game 3. He supposedly has a left 2 hyperextension right now, whatever that means. It definitely is just a lot of discomfort when you're running, when you're walking. So 100% I understand why he's not been playing Game 1 and Game 2, but you have to play in Game 3. Game 3 is an elimination game for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If they lose Game 3, this series is over, whether it's in Game 4. If it's in Game 4, that's even more shocking. If it's in Game 5, regardless of when it is, the Pacers are looking to close out the series in Game 3, most likely. Game 3 is the last straw if you're the Cleveland Cavaliers to have a chance to come back. You have to win Game 3. You have to win Game 4. You have to play Garland, Mobley, and Hunter have to be back if the Cavs want to have an opportunity to win this series. And I'm predicting them to be back. I have to pick the Cavs in Game 3, and we'll have a little bit more to talk about that when we're previewing Game 3 of this series on Friday. I believe it's Friday, or it could be we're probably going to preview it on Friday, because I believe the Game 3 is either on Friday or it's on Saturday. I think it's on Friday, but we'll have more to talk about then. I'm going to take one more short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears over to the Oklahoma City Thunder in a must-win game for them in Game 2 against the Denver Nuggets. This is a massive game for the Oklahoma City Thunder, for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, a young incredibly young Oklahoma City team that is gaining a lot of experience right now against the best player in the league in Nikola Jokic. We have a lot to talk about. It's going to be experience versus youth in Game 2. Who you got in Game 2? We're going to preview that series and talk a little bit about what the X factors are in that one. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our third segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about the Oklahoma City Thunder matching up against the Denver Nuggets in a crucial Game 2 for the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight. It's going to be about Shai Gilgeous-Alexander versus Nikola Jokic in the MVP conversation. Of course, those are the two heads of the race, and this series that's really the headline of this series. If we're going to talk about more, we can also talk about Russell Westbrook returning to OKC. It was kind of nice to see Russell Westbrook go back to OKC and have a little bit of have the fans giving him a little bit of a standing ovation, because that is where Russell Westbrook started his career. He left his heart and soul on the court over there. He never wanted to leave. It was just the fact that he wanted to win an NBA title. And in that state of the Oklahoma City Thunder, he wasn't doing it. He was carrying the team on both sides of the ball, losing young talent left and right. Paul George obviously going to LA before his departure. Carmelo Anthony as well, which he brought in, departing for Portland. Steven Adams departing for Memphis. A lot of players, a lot of guys just moving around for this Oklahoma City Thunder team at the time, and Russell Westbrook just couldn't stay. So it's just it's nice to see him come back. The fans rejoice him, give him his moment, and just a little kumbaya moment, as we like to call it in the sports world. Just a heartwarming moment. But yeah, Russell Westbrook did not remember how to play from his Oklahoma City days in Game 1, where he showed up and showed out in Game 1. Going off for 18 points off the bench. That's basically what you want from a Russell Westbrook. And he's he's continuing to have a phenomenal playoffs, had a phenomenal series against the Clippers, now having a great game in Game 1. Let's see if he can continue that streak into Game 2 as well. Of course, we have to talk about Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic going off for 42 points, 22 rebounds in Game 1. He's going to need to continue to play at that level if the Nuggets want to have an opportunity to win not only Game 2, but the series. He's one of the X factors for this Nuggets team. If he reverts back to Clippers Nikola Jokic, where he was going off for 13, 10, and 12, 18, 10, and 11, it's good. He's still scoring triple-doubles, absolutely, and he's an efficient all-around player. But we need more scoring efficiency out of him, man. Scoring is incredibly important, unless you're playing the Golden State Warriors. But outside of that, because these playoffs, especially against a player like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who you know is going to get his baskets, he's going to get to the free throw line, he's going to have his opportunities to score the basketball. If you know there's a player like that out there, you need to be able to answer that call. You need Jamal Murray to be with you. You need Aaron Gordon to be with you. You need your whole team ready to go. And even though they had a quiet first half, They figured it out in the second half. Nikola Jokic, we saw him animated on the bench before that second half of game one. And then that second half, just flipping a switch. And honestly, I said it before yesterday, that was the best Denver Nuggets half of basketball I've probably seen them play in my, probably since they won the title 2 years ago, I'd say. That was just how phenomenal they played all around. And they need to continue to play at a similar level. Maybe they don't need to play consistently at that level because of just how dominant they were. I don't think they're going to shoot the ball at that level that they did. But in terms of playing at that level, rebounding, playing in terms of defensive tenacity, you need to continue to play at that level if you want an opportunity to win this series. And honestly, I'm happy I just said that because that is exactly where I want to go. I said X factor number 1. Nikola Jokic playing at a high level, being able to match up with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander offensively. X factor number 2 for this Denver Nuggets team. Rebounding. The same X factor against the Clippers. I said immediately after game 1, the reason why the Nuggets came back in game 1 against the Clippers is because of their rebounding. It didn't happen once, didn't happen twice, it happened 3 or 4 times against the Clippers, regardless of the series going 7 games. A lot of it was because of Kawhi either going off for 39 points, James Harden going off for 28 points in game 6. There was a lot of all-around, the blowout in game 3. There were a lot of all-around performances that allowed the Clippers to steal games. But the reason the Nuggets team was able to win this series, we saw it with the putback game-winning dunk from Aaron Gordon. It is the rebounding of the Denver Nuggets that puts them head and shoulders above everybody else. They did it against the Clippers. They just did it again in game 1 against the Thunder. 42 and 22 rebounds for Nikola Jokic. 22 points, 14 rebounds for Aaron Gordon. 11 points, 13 rebounds for Christian Braun. 21.6 rebounds for Jamal Murray. These are players that they're awesome. But to have a team, have 3 players on a team go off for double-doubles themselves, you're not putting yourself in a position to win in those situations. Plain and simple. And this was on a day where Michael Porter Jr. had a quiet day. Only 2 points, 4 rebounds for him in game 1. We've seen him go off for 15 and 15 like he did against the Clippers. We saw Russell Westbrook go off for a double-double against the Clippers as well. This is a team that is incredibly loaded, being able to not only score the ball, get yourself extra opportunities for offensive possessions, get yourself to the free throw line, incredibly physical. Just on overall, this is the Nuggets were probably one of the most underrated teams going into the playoffs. And if they can continue to play at this level, this is a championship level team right now. If they can continue to play at this level, I like their chances to knock off OKC. OKC is still one of the best teams in the Western Conference, but this is a Nuggets team that has a lot of experience. And this is a Thunder team, frankly, that has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, absolutely. He's a bona fide superstar in the league right now. But if we're going to go down the line, Jalen Williams, I guess we can start there. Jalen Williams is going to need to be an X factor for this Thunder team. 16 points, 5 of 20 from the field, 2 for 9 from three-point range. This is a Jalen Williams that we know can go off for 30 points whenever he wants. He can go off for 25, 20, 30, 40. We've seen him go off for 40 points in the regular season. The problem is, this is the playoffs. This is the time where you need to show up. This is where you get your titles. We have James Harden getting the title of Game 7 choker. We have Steph Curry getting the title of the boogeyman of the Western Conference. We have playoff Jimmy Butler. We have Ant-Man, who's turning into a superstar, into a legend killer title. We have LeBron James as the GOAT title. The Slim Reaper in Kevin Durant. These are all guys that gain their titles, gain their credibility in the playoffs. If you want to gain your credibility, Jalen Williams, you need to show up in the playoffs. 5 of 20 is not going to cut it, especially as being known as the number 2 option on this Oklahoma City team. And this was a big reason why I was worried about this Oklahoma City team, because they're very top heavy with Shai. I keep saying Shai, I apologize. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, they're incredibly top heavy. And then they have a great group of guys around them, but none of them are reliable. This is the third youngest team in the NBA right now, with an average age, I think of an average age of 23 years old, if I'm remembering correctly, 23 or 24 years of age. This is an incredibly, incredibly young team, and they're growing around one another, and they're gaining confidence. But when you're going up against a championship level team in the Denver Nuggets, it's a similar standpoint as the Cleveland Cavaliers. You have a bunch of young guys that have not been in this situation, and experience is playing a role into how these games are playing out. Tight games come down to experience. We saw it with the Warriors and Rockets series. We saw it with the Knicks and Pistons series. We saw it with the Celtics and Magic series. That's about it. Basically, this is how these series are transpiring right now. And if the Thunder want to have an opportunity, they have to keep their foot on the gas. They have to keep their head down. They have to go full steam ahead. I would not be shocked if this is a similar standpoint with how Donovan Mitchell went off last night for the Cavs. I would not be shocked if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander goes off for 30, if not 40 points in this one. In game 1, he went off for 33 as well. But this is a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that is going to need to put his team on his back if we see another Nikola Jokic 40-point game, which, honestly, as the best player in the league, after what we saw in game 1, I would not be shocked if we saw it again. Jamal Murray, we know he can play better. He can score better than 21 points. We could see another 43 bomb whenever we want out of Jamal Murray, like we saw in game 5 against the Clippers. Aaron Gordon, we can see him go off for another 22-point and 14-rebound game. He is an X factor for this Nuggets team, and I've lamented it over the last couple weeks that he is an X factor whenever he can get that three-point shot going and he can spread the floor, give Jokic some more room on the interior, give him another option on the exterior to get a shot off for a pick and pop three. That is the threat that Aaron Gordon poses. And being able to crash the basket, being able to shoot from outside, when he can get into a rhythm like that, he can be an X factor for this Nuggets team. And he was an X factor in game 1, scoring the game winner over Chet Holmgren. Was it Chet Holmgren? It was either Chet Holmgren or it was Jalen Williams. I think it was Jalen Williams. But yeah. Do I think the Nuggets can win game 2? I think they can. But I'm not saying they will. I'm not crazy. This is an Oklahoma City team that is ready to go. This is the number 1 team, the number 1 best record in the NBA, number one rated efficiency on offense and defense, one of the most underrated teams in NBA history, probably the best team in the NBA regular season. They're going to need to show up tonight. And if they can split going back to Denver, I think it only helps them, and it helps their confidence significantly. Jalen Williams needs to show up in this one. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, I already expect to show up, but he also needs to show up as the number 1 option on this Oklahoma City team. It is about Shai. It's about Jalen Williams. It's about the 2 guys in the inside with Isaiah Hartenstein and Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren needs to remind us that he's not going to miss back-to-back free throws that could have iced the game in game 1. Regardless of how you slice it, this is an Oklahoma City team that has a lot to prove, and I believe they're going to prove it tonight. So I got the Oklahoma City Thunder tying this series back up at one game apiece, and we go back to Denver over the weekend, tied at 1 game apiece, in what will be a crucial game 3 and game 4. But yeah. That's just my take on it. I'm going to take another short break. Coming up next, we're going to switch gears back over to the Indiana Pacers. I said we were going to bring this back up. Tyrese Haliburton, the quote-unquote most overrated player in the NBA. We have a lot to discuss about him, how he's played in the NBA playoffs this year, how he's really led this this Indiana Pacers team to a 2-0 series lead in the second round in a team that a lot of people thought might not even make it to the second round, might lose in the first round, might not even make it past the Milwaukee Bucks, might fall to the play-in tournament. This is the same Indiana Pacers team. So we have a lot to talk about them, and Tyrese Haliburton specifically. Is he the most overrated player in the NBA? You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into our next segment here, we're going to talk a little bit about Tyrese Haliburton being called, quote-unquote, the most overrated player in the NBA right now. Yeah, he heard all of that. He heard all of the noise about him, all of the trash talk that his peers around the NBA in that questionnaire that filled it out, naming him that pretty much he got the most votes for most overrated player in the league. To get that title and then perform the way he has heard all of the noise, and he has performed at a high level throughout these playoffs, leading the Pacers to a first round series win over the Milwaukee Bucks, coming back in a closeout game from down 20 points, coming back to win the game on a game-winning shot over Giannis. That is Tyrese Haliburton. That was only a taste. Game 1, showing up, hitting clutch 3 after clutch 3 in the fourth quarter. Game 2, starting out a little bit quieter, only finishing with 19 points, but finishing the game with an absolute clutch 3-point shot over Max Strus at the top of the key. In a game, in a situation where you could have just drove the ball, and gotten a layup, gotten an open lane to the hoop. You decide to take a step back 3, roll the dice on the game winner, and that is all she wrote. A game-winning 3 from Tyrese Haliburton last night, and it pretty much solidifies him as probably the most underrated player in the NBA playoffs right now. This is a guy that is averaging a double-double right now with points and assists. A guy that is probably able to average a triple-double if he wanted to with rebounds. I would not be shocked if we see a triple-double out of him at some point in these playoffs. Just because of his height, his length, he's able to get those rebounds if he wants to. I am curious to see if he's a little bit hobbled, because we did see him go down at the end of game 2. Late in that fourth quarter, he went down after a take to the basket, just grabbing that right ankle. So it's going to be interesting to see how that ankle is, if that ankle is 100%. But it didn't show itself last night. It showed itself in brief moments, but in terms of his play, it did not show itself. Tyrese Haliburton is still one of the best players in the league, in my opinion, and he's probably I'm serious when I say he's probably the most underrated player in the NBA playoffs right now. Plain and simple. In the regular season, I can understand why he's labeled the most overrated player, just because his scoring efficiency takes a dip. As well, on top of that, he had a little bit of a slump to start the season. I think he only averaged about 15 points a game. We saw a lot of single-digit scoring games out of him. We saw double-digit assists, and that's what we know he can do. But in terms of scoring the basketball, he was struggling on doing that. And I can understand why you would think he's the most overrated player in the league with those signs shining through and through. But in the playoffs, this is the second year in a row that he's showed up and turned up the heat in the playoffs. Right now, he is averaging over 20 points a game in the playoffs, scoring at a high level, assisting at a high level, being able to facilitate. When you're able to continue your facilitating game, being able to start and kickstart this offense whenever you want, but you're able to be that guy that can be a reliable shot maker down the stretch. When you have a guy on your team and you're the coach and you could say, "Hey Tyrese, go get me a basket," and he's one of those guys that you can just be like, put the ball in your hands, go get me a bucket, stop the bleeding. The other team is on a momentum swing. We need you to get a bucket here. That is the type of guy that Tyrese Haliburton is, and that is what the Indiana Pacers did last night. Chipping it away from 10 points to 9 points, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, all the way down. That is what they did. The Cavs would go down to make a layup with Donovan Mitchell or get to the free throw line, and then the Pacers would on the next possession, would get to the paint, score a layup or score a three-pointer or score a layup, get a basket, and then get an and one. Get fouled while making the basket to get a 3-point play. That happened countless times in the fourth quarter last night in the final 10 minutes of the game. And that comes down to the star play of Tyrese Haliburton, who did that multiple times. Of course, Siakam gets some recognition. Miles Turner gets recognition. Aaron Nesmith gets recognition for hitting tough threes. But this is about also Tyrese Haliburton, putting these guys in places to succeed, taking some of the load off of them, taking some of the pressure off of them late in the game, putting the ball in his hands, taking control of the game by himself late in the games, and then getting his guys open for pick and pop shots, letting the offense flow through him. That is letting the offense flow through him and then branch off into the guys around him. That is what Tyrese Haliburton does. That is how he makes the guys around him better. And that is the biggest compliment that we can give to Tyrese Haliburton. The only time we have said something similar is to guys like LeBron James, guys like Michael Jordan, guys like Steph Curry, guys like, even if we want to talk about James Harden back in the day with the Houston Rockets, even if we want to talk about present day with Nikola Jokic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, these are names that we're comparing Tyrese Haliburton to in terms of offensively. These are the guys that we're comparing him to. And to even be in that conversation just continues to prove why he's one of the most underrated players in the league. But because I promise you, until today, we're probably going to see some today in terms of the media talking about him in this way. But I don't think we can discuss Tyrese Haliburton as the quote-unquote overrated player in the league after last night. Last night pretty much bona fide him as one of the most underrated players in the league right now. Whether you want to call it recency bias or not. This is not me saying it's recency bias. Media may call it recent. Media have been talking a lot of ESPN. The big sports networks have been talking about Cleveland, one of the best teams in the NBA, going to go to the NBA playoff finals. They're the best team in the NBA playoffs right now. They're going to knock off the Indiana Pacers in 5-6 games. No chance. Pacers have no chance. I sat here and I said, the Pacers are the biggest dark horse threat outside of the Cavs and the Celtics in the East to win the East. The Pacers are going to knock off the Bucks. The Pacers are going to knock off the Cavs. They're an incredibly deep, young team with a young core led by a player like Tyrese Haliburton, who is Magic Johnson-esque offensively, being able to pass the ball, being able to score the ball, being able to rebound when he wants. He doesn't rebound as much like Magic does, and I'm not take defense out of the equation because Magic's defense is what separates him from everybody in terms of point guard play. But Tyrese Haliburton, offensively being able to score the ball, being able to get to the basket, making magical layups. The way he's able to get to the basket and just finesse the ball to the basket, late in games especially. Being able to pass the ball the way he does. Being able to facilitate the way he does. He plays very Draymond Green-esque from back in the day when Draymond Green used to facilitate the offense, let the offense flow through him, get the guys around him open shots. But this is nowhere near the offensive play of Draymond Green. This is the offensive play of somebody like a Damian Lillard, like a Steph Curry. He can't shoot the ball like Steph, but like a Damian Lillard specifically. He reminds me so much of Dame time because of his, you can call him Hallie time. The way he's able to come through late in games, time and time again, scoring game winner after game winner, hitting clutch shot after clutch shot, keeping your team in it. That is what Tyrese Haliburton does for this Indiana Pacers team. And yeah, this is why he's one of the most underrated players in the league. Overrated, that argument has to be tossed in the trash. That questionnaire has to be erased, burnt, wiped out from any memory that was ever created, because Tyrese Haliburton is one of the best players in the NBA right now. No doubt about it. He's one of the best players in the NBA. He's probably, outside of maybe Jason Tatum, he's probably the best Eastern Conference. He's probably, maybe Donovan Mitchell's obviously in the conversation as well. But Tatum, Haliburton, and Donovan Mitchell are the three names in contention for the Larry O'Brien trophy in the Eastern Conference, for Eastern Conference MVP. He deserves to be in that conversation, and he's one of the best players in the league right now. Plain and simple. The way he's playing, the way the Pacers are playing, the confidence that he's wearing on his chest right now, he's one of the best players. He's one of the scariest players in the league, and the Pacers are one of the scariest teams left in the NBA playoffs. I still believe they have one of the best chances to come out of the Eastern Conference. They're one of the top 4 teams already, but I think Cleveland takes game 3 and game 4, and then Indiana goes back into Cleveland, takes game 5, and then goes back to Indiana and eventually wins game 6. That is if they split in Indiana, I think the series ends in Cleveland in 5 games. But if not, I think the series ends in game 6. That's just my take on it. But yeah, that's just my take on Tyrese Haliburton as a whole. But we'll see how this all transpires. There's still a lot of game left in this series. Only a 2-0 series lead. Job not finished. As the great Kobe Bryant said once upon a time in the press conference, job not finished just because you're up 2-0. What is there to be happy about? Job not finished. Job finished? I don't think so. That's Tyrese Haliburton right now. And he'll be ready to go in game 3. Donovan Mitchell and this Cleveland Cavaliers team better be ready in game 3. If they lose game 3, this series is at risk of being a sweep. Either it's going to be a sweep in 4 games, or it's going to be a gentleman's sweep in 5 games, regardless of how it shakes out. So, yeah, that's just my take on it. I apologize for that. I'm going to take one last short break. Coming up next, we're going to take a look at the other game taking place later tonight between the Boston Celtics and the New York Knicks. Game 2, a lot of people expecting, I'll say it, I'm one of the people expecting the Celtics to kind of blow out the Knicks tonight. The Knicks going into Boston in game 1 and knocking off the Celtics playing extremely poor, shooting the ball, playing extremely porous on the defensive end of the ball, turning the ball over. I think this is going to be a comeback game for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I think it's going to be a comeback game for Joe Mazzulla in terms of scheming and getting his guys ready to go for this one. And I would not be shocked if the Celtics come out and just give the Knicks a haymaker that they can't come back from. I say that especially after the Knicks came back from 17 points down in game 1, but I'd be pretty shocked if the Knicks won game 2 tonight. Just saying. I think we're going to monitor the health of Kristaps Porzingis as well in this one. But I'm going to take a short break, and coming up next, we're going to take a look at that series. You're watching the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere. Sorry about that. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Mehrob Fatemi. Getting into the last segment of our show here, we have the Boston Celtics going up against the New York Knicks tonight, hosting the Knicks in Game 2. Honestly, you could call this a must-win game for the Celtics. It pretty much is. You don't really want them to go down 2-0. Going back to New York, this is a similar situation to what the Cavs are in. I'm picking the Celtics in this one, plain and simple. If we're going to talk about this really quick, one more before I jump into this, I just want to say one stat that I noticed while I was in the middle of the break. This is a stat I just found. The playoff record when trailing by 7 points with less than a minute 30 left in the game. 2025 Indiana Pacers, 2-0. Did that in Game 5 against Milwaukee, and did it last night in Game 2 against Cleveland. Every other team in the last 20 years is 1-384. Shout out House of Highlights for that one. Just let that sit for a second. That is how good this Indiana Pacers team is. It's an insane stat, and shout out House of Highlights for that one. But getting right back into what I was talking about here, the Knicks and Celtics, Game 2, big series on the line, big game. Celtics dropping Game 1 in honestly miserable fashion after taking a 20-point lead in the second half. You miss 45 three-pointers. You draw up a horrible play with 3 seconds to play in overtime that you could have. I'm not even going to get into that. If you guys want to see my rant about that, go to my previous video recapping Game 1 yesterday. I went on a crazy rant about that game, but I don't want to go there because we'll be here all day. In this game specifically, it comes down to the play of Jason Tatum. It comes down to the play of Jaylen Brown, and it comes down to the health of Kristaps Porzingis. If Kristaps Porzingis is not healthy tonight, I might have to pick the Knicks in Game 2. I don't want to. I am a Celtics fan, but this is putting my pride aside. If the Celtics do not have Porzingis tonight, not only does it mean that Mitchell Robinson and Karl Anthony Towns are going to have another field day like they did in Game 1, Cat had a quieter shooting night in Game 1 as well. So, if without Porzingis in the lineup, it gives Cat an opportunity to go off for 25 and 14 or 27 and 24 like Rudy Gobert did against the Lakers. Without Porzingis, the Celtics team, in terms of defensively, in terms of height in the interior, in the paint, in terms of center play, they look like the Lakers. They have tall wing defenders, and they have good wing defenders, but they don't have a tall rebounder, an efficient young rebounder like Porzingis anymore. Horford is not that guy anymore. He's just getting older. Unfortunately, he's approaching the age of 40 years old. You're just getting to that age where you're starting to think about Father Time, and your body just starts to slow down a little bit. So you can't expect him to always get it done. But this game comes down to the shot making of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It comes down to the defense on Jalen Brunson, and it comes down to the play of Karl Anthony Towns and Mikal Bridges for the Knicks. Those are the two, and OG Anunoby. He went off for 29 points in Game 1 and was a big reason why they made that comeback in Game 1. If the Knicks want to have an opportunity, it comes down to those 3 role players. Mikal Bridges, Cat, Karl Anthony Towns, and OG Anunoby. If you want to throw Josh Hart in there, cool, you can. But the thing is with Josh Hart, he's more of a utility guy. He's more of one of those guys that comes out and shows out as a utility guy, can rebound, can defend, can shoot, can score, can get you a bucket when you need him to. But you don't really rely on him. That is Josh Hart. And I think this is going to be more so about those other 3 role players that I mentioned. I don't think Josh Hart should be in that conversation because that's just not his role. It's going to also come down, of course, to the play of Jalen Brunson. But we know Jalen Brunson is going to show up in this one. He's still dealing with that ankle injury, and we saw him still dealing with it in game 1. But I think he's going to show up and show out tonight. He's going to go off for 30 points again, like he always does. But Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown are going to need to step up. Derek White, 5 of 16 from 3-point range. We know you can shoot better. We know you can play better. So I expect a little bit of a comeback game out of him. Drew Holiday was the best player on the floor, honestly, for the Celtics in game 1. His defense on Jalen Brunson was crucial down the stretch. And if the Celtics want to win this series, if they want to win this game, he's going to need to continue to play at that high level if the Celtics want to have an opportunity to win not only tonight, but win this series. Al Horford, of course, we still need him to play at a decent level. If he can go off for 7 or 10 points, 5 rebounds, I think that's pretty much all we need out of Big Al. But this really comes down to the health of Kristaps Porzingis. He did try to play game 1. He was just sick. He was out of it. You could see him missing wide open layups, getting a couple rebounds, but just getting dominated in the paint by Karl-Anthony Towns. You needed to pull him out of that game because you could see his energy was sapped. He was exhausted. He was just not himself. And he was dealing with an illness, so that was definitely playing a role in why he was struggling on the court in game 1. Hopefully these two days have given him a little bit of a rest, but we'll have a little bit of an update on that as we get closer to the game. Watch out for my YouTube shorts on the page for when I release those, because I'll have a little bit of an update for those as we get closer to tip off. But this is about the New York Knicks. Can they shock the world twice? Yes, they can. Like I said, it comes down to the role guys. It comes down to the play of Jalen Brunson. It comes down to the defense of the New York Knicks. But it also comes down to the shot making of the Celtics. If the Celtics are able to shoot and make their shots, get their shots in rhythm, they had a lot of open shots in game 1. They just simply weren't making them. Plain and simple. Going 12 of 60 from 3-point range in game 1 is already a bad stat, but if you look at the open shots, I believe they had a lot of open shots in game 1. I don't know what the exact stat is. I saw it yesterday. I wish I wrote it down. I'll have that ready to go for the short as well. I'll promise that. But this is about the Knicks. They can shock the world twice, and that is why this game is so massive. If they can go up 2-0 going back to New York, can you imagine New York City up 2-0 against Boston in Madison Square Garden? They're up 2-0. All they have to do is win 2 out of the next 4 games or 5 games. You only need to win 2. And you're up 2-0 in MSG for the next 2 games. That place is going to be rocking. So the Celtics kind of need to win this game tonight. Regardless, I think MSG is going to be rocking regardless, because it's still going to be a tied series, 1-1 apiece. Still a 50-50 coin toss. And it starts with game 2 tonight. If you're the Celtics, you have to win game 2. If you're the Knicks and you win game 2, I love your chances to make the Eastern Conference Finals. And the Celtics, you're in a bad spot if you go down 2-0. But we'll have a little bit more to talk about that as we recap this series, as we recap game 2 in tomorrow's show. But yeah, that's going to do it for me and for this show. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so please remember to leave a positive review. It makes more of a difference than you guys think. Whether it's positive review, whether it's criticism, negative, let us know what we're doing well. Let us know what we can improve upon. You guys are a big part of what we do on the show here at the GSMC Sports Network. And in general, we appreciate you guys are a big part of what we do here. So let us know how we can build our shows around your takes, around your tastes, and let us know what you guys want to hear more of in general. If for more content and updates, be sure to follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram for more content and updates. Thank you guys for tuning into the GSMC Basketball Podcast. We got 2 more games slated for tonight. We have Knicks Celtics to start it off, and then we got Nuggets Thunder to close out the night. I'll have a recap to close out. I'll have a recap of those games in tomorrow's show as well. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your days. This is the host of the GSMC Basketball Podcast, Mehrob Fatemi, signing off. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great. I don't wanna go to